Hello guys, how are you?
I'm Hardeep Singh. Welcome back to your own YouTube channel. IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test, and speaking, you got guesswork. Please, guys, participate in everyday listening and reading practice test to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. Please hit the like and subscribe button. Press the bell icon for the upcoming notifications. Don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams.
Part 1.
You will hear two colleagues, Mike and Jane, discussing the need for new equipment in their office. First, you have some time to look at questions 1 to 6.
Hi, Jane. You mentioned that we might need some new equipment in the office.
Absolutely. What we've got is too old, and much of it is faulty.
Well, you know how difficult it is to replace equipment. I guess I'll just use another requisition form. We can fill it out now.
If you don't mind.
I suppose you're going to complain about the printer again.
Sure, my printer's bad, but the copier is almost unworkable. It jams all the time, it's too slow, and it's already been repaired 4 or 5 times. We've got to do something about it.
OK, I'll put that down on the form. So you want a copier, not a printer, and you work in accounts, right?
Yes, that's right, the accounts department.
OK, but this is a requisition form. There's meant to be a limit on the length of time you can have the item.
We need it forever. The old machine's almost useless. The moment it gets repaired, it breaks again.
Well, I'll just write ongoing, OK? That basically means the item will stay with us until I say otherwise. Now, the next question is, when do you want it? In a few days? 1 week? It usually takes a while for these things to arrive.
If it arrived today, it would be better. We need it as soon as possible. Can you write today?
Well, it can't come that quickly. I'll just write immediately. But be warned, that means it may still take some time to get here, perhaps a day or 2.
That's annoying. We've got so much unexpected demand right now.
Good. I'll write that as one of the reasons. We need 3 reasons, you know, or they won't grant this request. So for the second reason, I'll write original broken.
And that's essentially true. It is broken.
The truth is always good. But can you think of one more reason?
Not really. But those first 2 reasons are surely strong enough, aren't they?
Well, I think we still need a third reason. Maybe I'll have to bend the truth a bit. I'll just write, require more functions. OK?
Or you could write, require faster speed.
No, all these copiers operate at the same speed, so that reason won't sound true.
OK, whatever it takes.
Right. And shall I put your name? Jane Huang, spelt with a U, right?
Well, actually, I would say your name would be more likely to get speedier results.
All right. I certainly don't mind putting my name with this. Mike Green. G-R-E...
Just like the colour green, right? But with that final E, which often tricks people.
Yes, that E at the end tricks them all the time.
Before you hear the rest of the conversation, you have some time to look at questions 7 to 10.
Actually, Jane, talking about office equipment needed, I've got a list before me of all the items purchased last year. There's certainly a lot, and I can see why the owners are getting concerned. Obviously, some things are necessary in the business, like the 20 boxes of copying paper I've just ordered. And it shows here that last year our office ordered 2 fax machines, which is certainly not excessive, but there's a lot of other equipment on this form which may raise questions.
Yeah, but we had special circumstances, Mike. We renovated the office and had to replace all the computers and printers. 17, I think.
We actually got the printers from another department, so it didn't cost us. But sure, with 17 people all needing computers, that was a considerable expense, along with the 15 speakers and 16 headphones. Why did we need those?
Everyone was using Skype to communicate with clients. They still do, of course. It's a very popular way to communicate.
And we have 6 items here as well.
Printers? But you said we got them from another department.
No, mobile phones, paid for by the company. I remember that for our agents out in the field. They used to use landline phones belonging to the clients. Okay. We also ordered lots of lighting equipment, but that can be expected. I'm not worried about that. 27 lamps and over 34 fluorescent lights.
And we needed 13 new mouses as well, to replace some of the old ones. All of the replacement computers had screens, very nice screens, but some of them lacked mouses.
Well, at least it wasn't 13 fans like the marketing department has just asked for. Alright, so basically the amount of equipment ordered last year was quite considerable, but it was all necessary.
That is the end of part 1.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 2.
You will hear a representative from Easy Travel Travel Agency telling some customers the details of a planned trip to Arthur Island. First, you have some time to look at questions 11 to 15.
Alright, hello everyone. Now, you're all here to learn about the trip to Arthur Island. As you might know, the population is about 7,000. That's permanent residents, a far cry from the early days when some 17,000 people lived there. But the advantage of a declining population is that the island has maintained its natural attractions. So now, in the summer, the population swells to 22,000 as tourists flock to this lovely little place to enjoy all it has to offer. It's an interesting fact that Arthur Island was once very isolated, with only a rickety wooden bridge connecting it to the mainland. Heavy trucks could not pass over, as could be seen by the accident in 1971 when the bridge broke. This resulted in the new bridge being built, construction starting in 1972, finishing 2 years later. And since then, business has boomed for the tourism industry. This was helped by the motor racing circuit built there in the 1980s and the reputation for fresh seafood, caught directly from the island's waters, and the famous native wildlife, such as koalas and emus, although I would say, people being ruled by their stomachs, it is the food which really brings them in. Now, the tour bus leaves quite early, 6 in the morning, and it's a long trip, but you'll really enjoy just looking at the beautiful scenery from the window. Still, we understand that you'll need to stretch your legs at some point. For this reason, we used to stop at the Emu Park Wildlife Sanctuary, until Arthur Island developed its own sanctuary, rendering that former stop-off somewhat redundant. Now we stop at the Bass Guest House next to the very interesting worm farm, which you're invited to visit, thus learning all about those humble little creatures. And if you're interested in bigger wildlife, please remember that you'll need to pay the wildlife park entrance fee on the island, so budget for that. Another important point is not to eat too many of the complimentary biscuits with your free tea on the bus, since you should keep your appetite intact so that you can indulge in some of the great eateries on the island, for example at the famous Reggie's restaurant.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 16 to 20.
All right, you know about the history of Arthur Island and the details of our tour there, so let me now tell you a bit about the specific sites and attractions on the island itself. It's a small place, but there's a lot packed in there. If you want to cuddle a koala, the wildlife park is the first place to go. That's on the most easterly point, a small promontory sticking out into Bass Strait. But be careful, the wind can be very strong. Hold on to your hats, literally. By that time, you'll probably be ready to eat, and you could choose between Reggie's restaurant or eating at the nature reserve, or at some of the restaurants right in the middle of the island. If it's Reggie's you want, take the complimentary bus down to the southern tip. Reggie's is right on the port, taking its famous seafood directly from the boats. How fresh is that? But to save time, you could go northwards to the very opposite point of the island and eat at the restaurant in the nature reserve, then go and see the beautiful coastal scenery there. And what better way to do this than cycling? There are many trails, and Anderson's Beach also offers some beautiful opportunities for cyclists, as well as for swimming and surfing, of course. Get the bicycles, however, on the opposite side of the island, in the main township. Finally, you might want a reminder or souvenir of your trip. Obviously, there are souvenir shops all over the island, with many at Anderson's Beach. But the main spread of tourist shops is centrally located and right on the main road so that they are accessible to everyone, no matter where you are. Yes, at Arthur Island, you'll find everything you want to do and more. Now, do you have any questions?
That is the end of part 2.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 3.
You'll hear an introduction about the process of producing stamps.
First, you have some time to look at questions 21 to 25.
Hello, and welcome to this week's edition of Tell Me More, the programme where you ask the questions and we provide the answers. And we've had a wide variety of questions from you this week. And the subject we've picked for you this week, in response to your many letters, is the production of postage stamps. And as usual, we've been doing our homework on the subject. So, who designs the postage stamps that we stick on our letters? Well, in Australia, the design of postage is in the hands of Australia Post. In Britain, it's the Royal Mail that looks after stamps, and it seems that both countries have a similar approach to the production process. We discovered, to our surprise, that it can take up to 2 years to produce a new postage stamp. Why is that, I hear you ask? Surprisingly, it can't be all that difficult to design a stamp. In fact, it isn't, but it seems it's a lengthy business. Firstly, they have to choose the subjects, and this is done with the help of market research. Members of the general public, including families, are surveyed to find out what sorts of things they would like to see on their stamps. They are given a list of possible topics and asked to rank them. A list is then presented to the advisory committee, which meets about once a month. The committee is made up of outside designers, graphic artists, and stamp collectors. If the committee likes the list, it sends it up to the board of directors, which makes the final decision. Then they commission an artist. In Australia, artists are paid $1,500 for a stamp design and a further $800 if the committee actually decides to use the design.
Before you hear the rest of the talk, you have some time to look at questions 26 to 30.
So there's a possibility that a stamp might be designed, but still never actually go into circulation. So what kind of topics are acceptable? Well, the most important thing is that they must be of national interest. And because a stamp needs to represent the country in some way, characters from books are popular, or you often find national animals and birds. So, of course, the kangaroo is a favourite in Australia. With the notable exception of members of the British royal family stamps, no living people ever appear on Australian or British stamps. Every year, the Royal Mail in Britain receives about 2,000 ideas for stamps, but very few of them are ever used. One favourite topic is kings and queens. For instance, King Henry VIII, famous for his 6 wives, has recently appeared on a British stamp together with a stamp featuring each of his wives. But despite the extensive research which is done before a stamp is produced, it seems it's hard to please everybody. And apparently all sorts of people write to the post office to say that they loved or hated a particular series. The stamp to cause the most concern ever in Australia was a picture of Father Christmas surfing at the beach. And when you consider that the practical function of a stamp is only as a receipt for postage, I think perhaps the importance accorded to stamps has got out of all proportion. Well, that's all for today. If there's a subject you want us to tell you more about, drop us a line at...
That is the end of part 3.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
Now turns to part 4.
Listen to the introduction about Tower Bridge and complete the summary.
First, you have some time to look at questions 31 to 40.
Tower Bridge is located in one of the most interesting parts of London. On either top of the tower, you can get a bird's-eye view of the wonderful scenery all round Tower Bridge. On its south side are many tall old buildings, On its north side stands the Tower of London itself. But Tower Bridge, the first bridge over the Thames, as you travel to London from the sea, is the most famous of them all. Although they look the same age, the tower is almost 1,000 years old, and Tower Bridge, which was built in the 1890s, is just over 100. Because of the tall ships up and down the Thames, it was proposed in 1850 that a bridge across the Thames near the tower was most necessary. However, the designers argued about the new bridge for about 30 years. They took so long because they had two big problems. One is that the new bridge must look like the old tower, and the other is that the bridge must not look like a modern bridge. They made it look like the old tower, so everyone was happy. Besides, the most surprising thing about Tower Bridge is that it opens in the middle, while big ships are going through to the Pool of London. If you're lucky enough to see the bridge with its two opening arms high in the air, you'll never forget it. The bridge took 8 years to build and cost £900,000, a lot of money in those days. But it was a wonderful success and became a famous tourist attraction in London on the day when the bridge was completed. 100 years ago, the Thames was once London's busiest traffic route, so that the bridge opened at least 12 times a day. Today, big ships don't go so far up the Thames. Tower Bridge opens perhaps only twice a week, but the same wonderful machinery is still in good condition. Green, yellow and red, the colourful wheels and engines look smart and new, not 100 years old. They still lift the two heavy opening arms, each 1,000 tons, leaving 70 metres for the ships to go through. And they still can open and close the bridge in 1.5 minutes. Things are changing greatly now at Tower Bridge. The horses that used to help with pulling have gone, and so have the tugs, for they're no longer necessary. The walkways from one tower to the other at the top of the bridge were closed years ago because so many people jumped off them into the Thames, which is said to open again soon. In addition, the beautiful wheels will be part of a special exhibition for the public to visit. There'll be a restaurant in one of the towers and a pub in the other. But whatever happens in its exciting future, Tower Bridge will always mean London.
That is the end of part 4.
You now have half a minute to check your answers.
So guys, don't forget like, subscribe and share my YouTube channel and my Facebook page, IELTS updates and recent exams. For more updates related to recent IELTS exam writing test topics, listening, reading, practice test and speaking, you can guesswork. Please guys, participate in everyday new IELTS listening and reading practice tests to achieve your desired band score in your actual IELTS exam. For more IELTS material, visit my official website www.ieltsupdatesandrecentexams.com. The link is given below in the description. If you need PDF files of latest IELTS material, then please join my Telegram channel. So guys, please write your score below the comment section. Again, thanks for listening. God bless you all guys. Stay tuned, stay safe.